Welcome to Pulling Focus, a podcast about movies and filmmaking brought to you by Skyline Indie Film Fest and thescenesnobs.com in Winchester, Virginia. Here are your hosts, Brian Patrick and Mick Manhattan.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pulling Focus podcast. I am, of course, your host, Mick Manhattan, Scene Snob, and I'm joined today by two very special people. One, you know, Mr. Brian Patrick from Skyline Indie Film Fest. And
hello. Sorry, that was my cue. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Have you done radio before? Is this your
Never.
No.
And we're leaving it in. I'm not doing it.
No, that stays. That stays.
And we have a very special guest with us tonight. Filmmaker Joe Duca is here, and we're going to talk about his new movie, Her Name Was Joe, coming out in theaters very soon.
Yep. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Happy to be here. See, I don't even know how to do radio.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you, guys. Oh, it's such a pleasure.
This is going to be fun because apparently we don't give a shit. So.
Welcome.
I do like 15 of these a day.
I'm Bill Simmons. Today we're going to do the Doors. Deion Waiters Award for.
I love it. Well, Joe, you got in touch with me. You are a Skyline Indie Film Fest alum. You've had a film with us before, and you got in touch with me because you wanted to premiere your new movie. Her Name Was Joe in Winchester, and we appreciate that. Thanks for being a Virginia filmmaker, and thanks for wanting to premiere your film back home, so to speak. We appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's probably my favorite theater maybe ever. I mean, I love all the Alamos, but that's like maybe the only Alamo I've ever been to. So
you love the rest on principle alone.
On the principle alone, yeah. It's like I don't want to say it's my favorite, but it definitely beats the ArcLight in LA. It's just, you know, I don't really have the reference to what did Napoleon say? There's no possible way to know that, Napoleon. It's like I think it's probably the best because you can eat tasty food in it. No, I just love that it has like, you know, all the old road shows, and I went there in college, and it was just a fun time. And I always wanted to, you know, show the movie back home. So that's like the most, to me, like that's the best theater. The Winchester film scene too, just really appreciate movies, and you know, it's exciting. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah,
come back and do that. So
I'm glad it's working out.
I haven't had to do a whole lot. You guys have been so helpful.
Well, you had to take the initiative to make the first call. That's the biggest first step.
Yeah.
Because so many filmmakers honestly don't do that. We have filmmakers that show up that don't tell me they're coming to Skyline. They get here, they don't tell me that they're here, and then I'll get a thank you note or something to say they had a great time. I was like, I didn't even meet you. I didn't even get to say hello. And I get it because I'm an introvert too. That's why we do radio and not video, or podcasts and not video. But
I'll speak for yourself.
It's still social activity.
Yeah, exactly.
You might be. Are you a quiet recharge? You have to recharge by yourself, or do you recharge in conversation? Because if you recharge in conversation, you're not truly an extrovert. Check the science, Brian.
I'll get back to you on that.
Listen, we'll talk about Her Name Is Joe in a minute. I want to talk about the science because I don't understand.
Luckily, I have Elon Musk over here, and he's going to tell us that we're all going to be aliens pretty soon. So,
well, tell him I keep buying Tesla stock and Bitcoin, so tell him not to fuck it up. All right.
Oh man!
When Tom Cruise dies in space, that's going to just end Tesla.
That'll be the end of it. Yep.
Nobody's going to want to go.
A global treasure is dead. Thanks, Elon.
I mean, he's no Nick Cage. Calm down.
They're basically the same guy with different levels of taste
And talent.
I don't know. I agree. Nick Cage is far more talented than Tom Cruise.
Listen, in every movie, one runs like this, and I realize we're on radio, I don't care. And the other one just does this every time.
Well, what's the best Tom Cruise run? It's got to be The Firm, right? With the briefcase.
Oh, yeah. Like that's
That's Apex Mountain. They're doing the rewatchables here.
I haven't watched The Firm in so long.
Wilford Brimley is like the seedy guy who takes pictures of Tom Cruise having an affair on a beach. It's got everything you want.
Yeah.
And
who could ask for more?
Yeah. Gene Hackman.
Well,
So
well,
good. So good. Now
well, before we improv a whole show, I want you to tell us about. I want you to tell us about your show, your movie that's going to premiere here in Winchester. Her name is Joe. Where'd that story come from? You wrote it, you directed it, and your whole family is in it and produced it and executive produced it. Where'd that idea come from?
Basically, it was. Wow, let me take that back. Basically, it just came from I had been in LA and doing like little roles in student films and stuff like that, and I had made short films in college, and I was just kind of feeling like, I kind of want to make a movie. And I had talked to my dad, and he was like, "Why don't we just make a movie? Why don't you write something that we could shoot here?" So I wrote it with, input from my dad and my sister and then my writing mentor and stuff. And then we put together a cast and crew from people out here and people in Virginia. And the genesis of the idea was just kind of like, what would Tom and Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn look like today? And then it was Dad's idea to change it to girls. And we just thought that would be like a real fun idea to see, to go across the country with these kids. The basic premise is that Joe lives on the Shenandoah River with her junkie stepdad and her friend Selma, and she like fishes and scraps for metal. And then one day he dies, and so she just steals his car and goes across the country to look for her real dad, who's this folk singer in LA, or had been, and she just has the CD, and so she's looking for him. And so it's kind of born of that, and then just kind of, rather than making sort of a introspective, I'm sad and I feel alone in Los Angeles movie, I was like, let take those emotions and say like, give it to somebody who's going through something real. I've always been attracted to stories of orphans and childhood. Like another inspiration was we used to go across the country because I was homeschooled. My family was homeschooled, so we would get in our RV and go to Dad to the various places he would go work. He worked for Microsoft, so we would be in go visit like Seattle, but on the way we would travel through like Denver and various places. So there's a lot of childhood memories there, just like Independence Rock or Wyoming and just the West in general. So it kind of came from that. And then just the idea of telling a story about like a little girl, that the sort of arose from that was the idea of faith-based movies are kind of like really dumb. And they, as the person of faith, it was, I wanted to do something where you had a character who prayed and Jesus wasn't like an ATM, machine for whatever problems you're going through. Like, could you still have faith and hope? Could you still, you didn't have to be explicitly religious, just like that sense of innocence. Can you preserve it in the face of things that are really bad? So that's another part of it too.
That's funny that you touched on that in the sort of synopsis you just gave us, because I was thinking back on it this morning. I just watched it last night, so it's fresh in my mind. It's like, I don't think there was any language in here for all the stuff that happened that was bad and graphic and, in real life would be terrible to go through. I noticed there was no foul language. And so I was going to ask you if this was a faith-based or faith-based adjacent type of film, and you just answered that. So thank you.
I do, just to kind of add to that too. One thing I love that you said, like, it's not treating Jesus like an ATM. Like every faith-based film I've watched, which when I go into them, like I really want to enjoy them because there's a lot of good stories to them, but it is like there almost has to be a miracle for it to be a faith-based film, which is an oxymoron of faith-based.
Right.
And so, I'm really glad that when you went into, you're saying that like when you went into writing this, it was like, I want faith a part of this, but like actual faith.
Yeah. I think, the language thing was kind of like, I wanted to have that sense of like innocence that the kid, rather than like if you had a lot of language, it would start to feel sensational, and I didn't like want that around the kids anyway. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
it could be R-rated, like, but those movies tend to feel like you're trying to make it edgy, and it just didn't feel super organic to the story to do that. And but in terms of the spirituality of it, I think that my favorite kinds of spiritual filmmakers are your like Bresson, or Terrence Malick, or even Scorsese. Like, I think probably one of the top 5 faith-based movies is Bringing Out the Dead with Nicolas Cage. So in that sense, that like telling like, to me, telling stories that have faith in it or spirituality in it is painting with a fuller canvas, rather than denying that as part of life. But it's not so much the end game. Again, just showing the experience of that experience as a component of a human's life. And so for me, it was important to show, like, faith is more fidelity to the experience you have of God than it is like certainty over with no doubt. Like that's more what it, like you're saying, that's more what it means to have faith. It's a constant, everyday putting your belief in the experiences of the transcendent and in the good and the beautiful and what's true, rather than, like a one and done. All right, I signed on the dotted line. Now I'm going to heaven forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's everyone's relationship with faith, regardless of the faith, is so unique to the individual.
Yeah.
But I really got from the film, I didn't take from the film that there was a mission or, for lack of a better word, sort of a propaganda aspect for it, like God can fix this type of thing. It was just a very industrious, astute, and very smart little girl and her best friend, who's pretty smart too, on the best little kid road movie I've ever seen. It was great. That character, Josephine, was amazing. Like, she was so, again, industrious and smart and capable. And she was like, I think of her like an older sister. Like, she was like the little mommy, right? So mom wasn't around, so someone has to be responsible and make decisions and get things done. And it didn't seem selfish what she was doing. It seemed like it was self-preservation. And I think you did a really good job with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Joe, one question I had too, stepping into writing this and directing it, like, what was it like, the experience, like working with such young actors? Stepping into that, like, what for you, like, what were the challenges and your rewards as well?
It's definitely a challenge, but like I had, those are the girls. One was my sister, and the other was a close family friend. So there's a lot of familiarity there, which was helpful and hard at times. Because my sister, the roles had initially been switched, and then Mary Kate was like, when Elisa, she didn't want to cut her hair for the movie, and I was like, well, that's not going to work. And then Mary Kate was like, I'll cut my hair. Also, I can shoot and I can drive cars, and I already do this in my life. And like, this is basically me. So I was like, cool. And that was like 2 days before we switched them. And then it was just, I tend to, I like neorealism in film, and I'd rather use a really raw actor than an actor that's kind of acquired a lot of bad habits from acting class. Because there can be an honesty there, and that's kind of the best part. Is some of the harder things is with an untrained actor is getting them to do dialogue, but sometimes that teaches you that your dialogue is a little overwritten, or it just doesn't sound human, or something like that. And so it's kind of fun to kind of turn it over to the girls and be like, "Will you just communicate what this needs to be?" And a lot of times that was the case, where it was just like, Mary Kate could say in 6 seconds of silence all this paragraph of dialogue, so just cut it, So it was very rewarding and a lot of fun to kind of see them just be kids. And that was, that was another part of it, that was just capturing that essence of being like children as opposed to being like kid actors. And there's some that can make it rough around the edges, but I find that, charming in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So do I. Was that your sister's first movie as an actress? And what about Mary Kate? Like, did they catch the bug from this? Are they like, Joe, when you're gonna make another movie?
I think they were permanently scarred by it.
As alluded to in the credits, no animals were hurt in the filming of this production. Can't say the same for people or something like that, right?
Yeah. Mary Kate hadn't acted before at all, and Elisa had been in another short film that I had done when she was really little, and I think she'd been in a production of King Arthur as an infant that we did for our homeschool theater group. So,
hey, we need a baby. There's a baby.
Yeah. After that, I think they both haven't approached me for like, let's do that again. Let's do those long hours and cold nights and drive across the country for 10 hours a day.
Yeah. Did they like the road trip part of it, or was it more of a grind, you think? And how was it for you with your, a big chunk of your family acting and producing the movie?
I mean, it was definitely, what's that? It was like the best of times and the worst of times kind of thing,
It was great in hindsight.
It was when you're directing, even though there's a lot of complications, it's always kind of exhilarating. You're doing the thing that fulfills you at the deepest level, if that's who you are as a person. And so that was just always, whether it was horrible and we had to figure something out at like 3 a.m, or we weren't getting it, or, whatever fell through, it was just still really exciting. But there was the hardest part was, we were driving like 10 hours and then we'd shoot like for 5 minutes in some place that we didn't exactly know would work or wouldn't work, kind of like a documentary, but you had to get across the country. And, my family all worked super hard behind the scenes to like my brother and my dad, they built the dummy that floated down the river and all sorts of stuff like that. So,
I hope you left it in the river and it like showed up downstream. That'd be great.
We had to get the carpet back. No, we had like some fishing line and they pulled it over. And it was good. But then towards the end of it, it was fun because we had a caravan going across, and it seemed like the Fellowship of the Ring, where over time it just kind of broke up. We lost people in certain towns. They had to go back, or at one point, Mary Kate's mom got appendicitis in Las Vegas. So a bunch of people had to stay behind in Las Vegas. And then we were going toward California, and somebody's car lost an alternator. So we ended up having to pull over in this town called Baker, which looks like Roswell, New Mexico, has one of those alien jerky stands. And we found like a mechanic who ran a shop out of his house in the middle of the night. And then another crew had to go to the next town and bring back an alternator. And then we're just kind of sitting there. We got some beers across the street. One buddy had a pipe, and the guy's kids had a pool and everything. So the girls played in the pool. And then once we were done with that, we were going across. That was when there was this big fire in the San Bernardino forest. So we had to go completely around Los Angeles to get. And so there was 1,000 things like that. But to be able to try to create something beautiful with the people you love there's just nothing like that.
Yeah. That's and so going and doing that, like, and being able to like find new places and like try new things. How is that, from like how much has it changed going across country and filming at these different places, and sometimes coming up to new places you didn't think you would film? How much of your original vision changed on the fly, like while you're on the road?
Oh, wow. At least 70%, 50% of it.
Wow.
Well, maybe not so much, because I had kind of, when I was writing it, I was writing it with the route in mind and like places we could potentially stop, and this is where this scene would be. Mm-hmm. but more so the tone changed, and that was a part of partly the location, partly time, and partly Mary Kate's performance. It had been initially more like one of those Columbia TriStar movies from the 90s, like Fly Away Home or something, where maybe not that one, but it had been more of a humorous kids movie, kind of a lighter tone. And just the locations that we found and the performance made it seem like, okay, this is going to be a way more serious and realistic tone. So in a lot of ways, that changed, like original scenes that had been written had to be changed, or how much time we had in the location, or how to achieve a certain story beat that wasn't going to work in the location, that kind of stuff. When we filmed in Las Vegas, a lot of that was improvised. So maybe 7. It didn't change the story, but it definitely changed the tone.
So all right. So like 70% is a huge number. But like you said, the movie hasn't changed. Like it was still the same story. And it looks awesome. You did a great job with it. So like, what have you taken away from that? Like seeing as much of that change while going on the road and doing these things. So like, what will you take to your next film? Like, will you be more open to sort of changes like that, or will you try and like tighten it up more?
No, I definitely think it. I had shot this film in a similar time frame with Evergreen, so a lot of it's just sort of a post-production thing. So a lot of the things that I learned from that I used in the other movie that I did, and definitely think that sense of discovery and improvisation, I'm always open to it, but particularly sort of planning for it. It definitely gave me that bug, of like, okay, here's the script, but I want to discover something new and plan to discover something new. And really, I've always been about letting locations and performances sort of dictate a scene rather than, bringing kind of this finished vision to it and saying it's got to be exactly like that. I mean, there are certain shots that are like, I want to have this shot. This is how I view it. But it's more like I like to have, some pillars that don't change, and then really be open to finding something more honest. Because I think, especially in performance, it's always about, for me, finding out what's really happening today, what's true in the moment right now. What can we discover that's honest here, as opposed to what I thought was the best, on the page in my room in the dark.
I love it. So now with the movie and it's going forward, and like after COVID and everything like that, what are you looking for in terms of, like, are you going to be distributing yourself, or is there a are you working with a distributor now, putting it out?
Yeah. We're going to do a VOD release through Gravitas on April 6th, I think is the release date. So get those pre-sales going on iTunes and everything. So it'll be on the streaming platforms and Amazon, etc. And then we have a deal with Wide Management for European sales. So we're going to be in Eastern Europe and things like that.
So
that's awesome.
So you've gone through all this. You've made this great movie. And how did you get in touch with Gravitas? How did you find a European distributor? How does that process work?
A lot of emails, but essentially, my buddy Dave Bianchi, who's a producer and actor, he was in Evergreen, and he had me put together a press kit, and he sent it to Gravitas, and he did inquiries, and he came on board as an executive producer later in the process. And he was a huge help. I mean, without him, I don't know that I would have gotten that. So It always comes back to relationships. I mean, if I would say, for any filmmaker, definitely do the, email inquiry thing, pound the pavement. But part of that has to be cultivating relationships for sometimes for years at a time.
Sure.
To get that going, and just to understand too, like what your what your product is and who might be interested in your product.
Right.
You hate to think of your art like that, but that's the business we have chosen. I didn't ask who killed Mo Green.
Well, it sort of demonstrates the importance of networking, and that's not everybody's forte. Again, like I said, even I've been to film festivals, and like I'll see someone who just did a Q&A standing by a table alone. Like they're not inclined. Some folks aren't inclined to just go out and meet people, but it's really important to do that. I mean, otherwise, you may have never met Dave and got this thing distributed or as quickly. I assume it was quick. I don't know. You're right. You made it and sold it the next day, right?
Yeah. we did 800,000 in pre-sales.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I think on that point, I'll definitely say, like, I think maybe looking at it less like networking seems like such a chore and such a like individual focus on like, okay, I'm going to go and meet these 5 people. And that can be really daunting, rather than like the focus being on like, you don't have to go to something and like meet 500 people. Like if you can make one good, authentic relationship, I think that's what it's about, is being open to authentic relationships, and then being honest about the value you can provide and not being afraid of that. Like coming into it, offering to serve someone else or help someone else rather than looking to get something. That certainly goes a long way. And I think, but for I've been that guy in the corner being like, I don't want to go talk to people, and if you think about it like that, as opposed to, who can I make a new friend today? Then, I don't have to be, Saul Goodman and meet Jim, Slip and Jimmy, meeting everybody and, cajoling everyone. So.
Yeah. And there are those people as well. So.
Hey, if you got that skill, I won't knock you. Just don't be a lawyer for drug dealers. I mean, that's or do. Who's to say really what's right or wrong?
I don't think it ended up too well for that guy.
It did. He got his own show.
That predates that show.
I will say this. I mean, you have you are like most film geeks, myself included, and Brian. You got the Wayne's World hat on, which Brian's not a film geek. I point the wrong way.
He's a movie buff.
He tries. He just saw Streets of
File.
No, definitely not a cinephile. I shall not be called a cinephile.
I shall. Here's the cinema. What is your theory on the auteur? All right. My theory is Eric Romer's watching paint dry. Actually, I like Eric Romer, but
being such a huge movie fan, and getting into like quoting and things like that. You're wearing a Wayne's World hat, of course, so we can tell. For you as a filmmaker, what are some of the things what are some of the movies your go-to either relax while you're shooting or help inspire you while you're shooting?
Oh, I've never had any time to watch a movie while I'm shooting.
Okay, before shooting.
I think it definitely depends. It depends on the movie. Like I'll kind of create a huge subconscious bank of influences when I'm writing, and I'll go through things. But for Her Name Was Joe, it was like Beasts of the Southern Wild, for example. I watched that a bunch of times, and Mud, To the Wonder by Malick. I know that's not everybody's favorite Malick movie, but that's the original Sad Fleck movie, if anybody's wondering. It's just hours of Ben Affleck staring at the distance, musing about God. But I'm really pitching that one.
Selling it hard.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, it's a tone poem. It's that's my favorite one when people are like,
I love that. I love
it. It doesn't need to be structure or stakes or character. It's just a painting that moves. It's like, okay, yeah, I can hear you there. My go-to films in general are like Groundhog Day, It's a Wonderful Life, The Godfather 1 and 2. Though I don't think the third one is terrible. Just should have had Tom Hagen. And what else? Rocky. You know, I have a pretty hearty American breakfast of my go-to films, and then I don't think I'm allowed to like Woody Allen movies anymore. But
we talk about that. We talk about stuff like that on the show. Like, can you divorce the work from the person? And
Caravaggio murdered a guy. Like, I think they're.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
and it's also. Oh, this tread lightly, Brian. Tread lightly. I still watch Woody Allen movies. How about that? I'll just leave it at that. I think he's got some serious issues that need to be dealt with, and he should probably be held accountable for things. But I do like his movies.
Yeah, but I mean, if they're gonna exist, my feelings are if they exist, like you said, like even Matthew Broderick killed a dude.
Oh yeah, he did.
That's not what you said. I said like even Matthew Broderick killed a dude,
and everybody loves him.
And people, yeah, like nobody's ushering.
Remember who you are.
You know, let's remember Rob Lowe, everybody's favorite TV guy, and what he did, you know, to underage girl. You know, but nobody mentions these things if you really like the person. So I don't care. I divorce it completely. You know, the only one is Jeepers Creepers with Victor Salva, but I divorce it completely because there's other people attached to this art. There's other people who worked on it, and you know, I'm not going to stop watching. You know, anything from Dimension or the Weinstein Brothers or anything because Harvey was there.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely something you have to consider, that like that person with their flaws, you know, that puts something into the art, but it also stands up as its own independent work with its different end. You know, if you're surprised at what Woody Allen did, then you never really watched any of his movies for 20 years where he falls in love with underage women every time. Every single movie. To this day, it's just like, yeah. But you know, I don't think that. I mean, it definitely should have a critical stance towards the. You know, it's a good conversation to have, but I think a lot of times too, it falls along sort of party lines. Like how much does Hollywood like this person? How much does this person's values align with, you know, the coastal elite values? Like, you're not going to get canceled if you're woke enough, usually. Like, yeah. So I think the fact that there's a sliding scale on that, not to say, you know, what Woody Allen did allegedly is terrible, but Roman Polanski's been making movies for however long, and we know that happened. So
yeah.
Are we going to stop watching Chinatown? You know, I definitely think you can separate the art from the artist. And then I think the more relevant question is like, how comfortable are you in your conscience, you know, paying for that art? But like you said, that goes to other people. And then it's a whole broad philosophical question. Like, if you disagree with what Facebook does, are you not using Facebook? Or if you have an issue with a company, are you going to completely boycott that? And if in your conscience you think that's right, I think there's arguments for that too. But to say broadly now, we can't. Yeah.
Well, I hope you packed a lunch, because we can't get off until we resolve this for the entire universe. So
yeah.
No, let's get to it, boys. Let's get to it.
12 Angry Men happening right here. Who wants to
you know, not to dwell on it, and I'm not getting into that craziness, but like I started a hashtag this week that like was, you know, in jest, and everybody, I thankfully got it, because it could have been taken a very different way. But it was like, make Lola Bunny sexy again. Oh. Everybody on Twitter who would normally, like, I thought like putting that out was going to make people pissed off, but a lot of people on Twitter were just like, yeah, this is ridiculous. What is this? What is going on? Why are we talking about this? Like, we had so much happen this year already, just this year, that actually means something. And this is what we're outraged about.
Oh yeah.
And it is.
We really can't be talking about whether Cuomo killed all those ladies in the old folks' home. What we really need to be talking about is
Lola Bunny,
personal foibles, and Lola Bunny. It's a false flag operation, guys.
A disinformation campaign.
I'd actually love to hear your opinion on being in the film industry and when the world is sort of open like this, where everybody sort of has a say, and there's the court of public opinion is so vast now. How is it for you as a filmmaker having to navigate through that?
I think I always kind of come back to that Steve Martin quote where he's like, just be so good that they can't ignore you, or be, I don't remember. I should know that quote if it's so important to me. But the basic gist of like, you become the best you can be, and then you hope that there's an audience for that, or you trust that there's an audience for that. Because if you spend your whole time trying to navigate, if it is a kind of a question of selling your movie or finding a space in the industry, like I think it's you do want to consider sort of what the market's doing, but with everything so wide open, I think you could lose your mind trying to figure out, how do I make the right movie, or how do I tell the right story. I think you always can really only tell the stories that are in you to tell, and trying to become a master of that, I think, is the best way to navigate that. Is just making art that's undeniable and continuing to grow. The hard part is movies are expensive, and so practicing making movies to get better and better is not the easiest endeavor. But
right. Steve Martin said, "Be so good they can't ignore you."
Okay, I got it.
If that doesn't work, put an arrow in your head.
And be a wild and crazy guy.
Wild and crazy guy. Yeah. Play a banjo.
Play a banjo well.
Well,
He does do well. I'll give him that.
Work for 10 years, I think the other thing too is it's you got to think of it as like a long-term investment, and like being a lawyer or a doctor. It's like you're going to put in at least 10 years. You might get lucky, but you're going to, before anything starts to happen for you, it's going to take a while.
That's something I hear over and over with podcasting and the festival and other things I've been a part of. It takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah.
Obviously,
it's not encouraging.
Not at all.
Yeah. If you say that, stop saying it. All right. It's not encouraging.
The other one that they say that's not encouraging is like, if you could do anything else, do that instead of this.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, I know that's supposed to mean you have to really love it in order to put up with all of the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, but that's not the emphasis. That it's like, quit now, please, so that I don't have more competition.
Don't give me wisdom I have to interpret. All right. I don't want that.
Just encourage me. Don't give me discouragement in the guise of advice.
Well, we're going to go out with the chant of Joe. We're not going out now, though. Joe.
I have a very important question to ask, and we're getting to the fun aspect of this.
I've been having fun this whole time. What's wrong with
well,
you?
we've been having fun, but like for Joe, because now Joe gets to answer like movie questions.
Oh, movie questions.
Yeah, you studied, right? You studied for this quiz?
All right. First question. Top 10 terrible filmmakers, as in they've done terrible things, we need to know right now. Who do you know? No, I'm just kidding.
Only 10. Only 10, though. It should be easy.
10 is too easy. Like, like, what are your top 5 remote dropper movies? Like, if it's on TV, you're not moving. Like, you're there for the long haul.
The Godfather. I mean, the Godfather.
The literal long haul.
As soon as I finish watching The Godfather, I'm like, how long do I have to wait to watch this again? I think I can go right now. Man, that's a tough one. Especially because we don't watch like on cable anymore.
Right.
So
you have to choose to go get it.
You have to choose to go get it. Recently, maybe easier. Like recently, it'd be like Sicario, Lady Bird, Social Network. Mark, you would have invented Facebook. You would have invented Facebook. Let's see. I think Rocky, Casablanca, Groundhog Day.
Are these the same movies that made you want to become a filmmaker? You think? Like they had that pull on you?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those top five, I think, at different stages, there's different things like Annie Hall or 500 Days of Summer or like Wild Strawberries. I mean, they sort of surrealist techniques, realizing, oh, you could do that in a movie. A lot of it, I mean, I have some strange influences. Like what initially got me wanting to tell stories was Batman the Animated Series. Like as a kid, being 5 years old, the Art Deco and this, deep characters for a kid show. That whole mood kind of is always with me. Looney Tunes, I always watch Looney Tunes. I mean, Pepe Le Pew just got canceled.
I sort of stood on an issue with him for a while now. I'm like, they could change the character and how he acts, and maybe not get rid of him, but he had questionable attitudes towards things.
I wanted to go back and watch it and be like, I think that's the joke. I think he's constantly punished for doing that that's the running gag. But yeah, I could go back and watch it and be like, whoa, actually.
Everything
it does always end with like he's got spirals in his eyes and he's all disheveled or whatever. Or he's like doing the eyebrow thing, So.
It's like a Wile E. Coyote.
Stop questioning Pepe Le Pew, who they punished for being this way, and not questioning basically every actor from the 40s, 50s, and 60s and how they treated women. There were a lot of hitting women back in those old school movies. Very freely.
Yeah, I think
they're all dead though.
And
right. they're not coming back in Space Jam 2 or whatever.
Space Jam 2.
Well, they should. We need to get some of these old actors back there.
Yeah.
No.
So
also, I would definitely say like the Pixar movies too, because would be a repeat in my house, or Toy Story and the Disney movies like Aladdin was a huge one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My really good friend yesterday just asked me, he said, aliens have landed. You're chosen to teach them about movies. What 5 movies would you select for them to watch? You can't communicate. You could just show them a movie. And my first response was, hell, I don't know. But
I don't want to give them the wrong impression.
Yeah. So initially I was thinking of all these sort of human alien encounter movies, right? And that kind of stuff. I was like, well, that's not movies. That's a small avenue of type of movie. So I ended up with telling him that I would send him A Trip to the Moon, Goonies, Children of Men, Saving Private Ryan, and Hail Caesar. After much thought.
Listen, if you're out in space, you need something light. You need something airy and breezy to breathe in.
Not Children of Men? Not Saving Private Ryan?
Great movie, but you really got to have your feet on the ground for that.
But those movies are made, like it covers so much of filmmaking. And yeah, the content's horrible or horrible human condition, but they're really good movies.
Yeah, the question is, are they going to try to kill us after watching these movies? Like, do we need to show them Pollyanna and
Arrival? Watch Arrival.
Even then, you got to kind of get to that point where you're like, okay, now if we send them that, then it seems like we're really like pushovers. Are they going to attack us then?
Yeah, there's no right answer. That should have been my response. There's no right answer.
The right answer is any Harrison Ford movie. They'll be like, okay, if this guy is a human, then we can't screw with these guys.
100% agree with that.
Actually, Air Force One, you're like, this guy is leading the free world. We got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, we should take a right turn at Albuquerque there.
Yeah, we send them Air Force One and we're like, this is our guy. And then they have a picture of Trump up and they're just like, no, that's a movie. That's a movie. Don't worry.
Send them Air Force One and say, this is the weakest of our species.
Yeah, then Predator.
No.
And then Rambo.
John Rambo. I think John Rambo would be a great ambassador, intergalactic ambassador.
Yo,
yeah. Just go.
Inexpendable.
Hands on when we come down.
They get here and then they realize that our greatest warriors are senile.
And putting on makeup.
We got Chris Hemsworth, I guess. We sent I don't think so.
I think he's a sweetheart. I bet he's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I think
I'll call him and
actually,
let you know.
I do think if we sent him a Tom Cruise movie, they'd be like, "Oh, that's where Jerry went. We've been looking for him."
Blow Tom Cruise's Alien cover.
It's like, why did you tell them?
Oh, that reminds me of my favorite line in Men in Black is, "You know Elvis is dead, right? He is not dead. He just went home."
Oh God,
that line made the movie for me.
And then in the second one, when they had Michael Jackson up on the screen, like, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" Oh yeah, that's legit.
Well, tell us about the premiere. When is it? Where is it? Who's invited? What's going on with the premiere of Her Name Was Joe?
So it'll be at the Alamo Drafthouse in Winchester at 7 p.m. on March 20th. Anybody's invited. Anybody that wants to come. I think there's still tickets available. It's social distance, so if we sell out the one theater, we could open up another one potentially.
Nice.
So as many people that want to come, there'll be a Q&A. If you come, I have signed posters. Not that you want my handwriting, but it's a lot in the alien market, I hear. Yeah, it should be a great time. It'll be the first time I get to see this movie with an audience, with everything that's going on. And all the years been working on it, it'll be a real joy. My family will be there. Some people that worked on it will be there. So it'll be fun. Get some food, talk movies. I'll be in the lobby afterwards and before. So
yeah, and Alamo does a good job with that stuff. So it'll be a good Q&A.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Tom Cruise will be there.
Running.
Just running back and forth across the lobby. He's
we are the gold standard.
He's going to be delivering. He's going to be shuttling food back and forth from the kitchen to the theater seats really fast.
In his briefcase.
that would be a great Alamo touch. People dressed like actors doing the waiting.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Nicolas Cage.
I used to go to this place when I was in Arizona, and it was like a 50s diner, and the servers were James Dean and Marilyn Monroe and people like that.
Yeah, that's a fun touch.
But I think the idea was good. The execution, not great.
Well, can you think about, like, if you're somebody that wants to act and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this as a side gig. Every day you're reminded of how your life didn't turn quite out the way you wanted it to.
Yeah, there was a certain sadness, to the Marilyn Monroe server.
I'm glad you're still alive.
Than what the real Marilyn Monroe went through.
Yeah.
The Kennedys are nice people. What are you talking about? I always wanted to. I would love to do. I don't know what the rights would be, but those paintings with all the dead famous people, with it's like Humphrey Bogart and James Dean's here and John Wayne and Charlie Chaplin. Like, I want to go into that movie. Like somebody walks into a bar and he finds out that he's in like the purgatory with all these celebrities.
All those actors.
Yeah.
That's another like Warner Brothers cartoon thing, right? Where they had like all the caricatures of the actors, the Clark Gable with the giant ears and the.
That's in LA. That was in a real restaurant. They would have all the I forget which restaurant it was.
Brown Derby or something.
Probably, yeah. Where they had the drawings of every all like the big stars back then. They would have them hung up on the wall if they ate there. I used to go to Musso and Frank's. It's overrated.
I still have never been to Musso.
So you sold this movie, you're about to premiere it. It's going to come out on VOD April 6th, you said? Mm-hmm. So just a couple of weeks away. What are you working on now? You writing a new project, acting, got some gigs coming up? Are you a director for hire? Like, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I'm available for projects. I'm in discussions about another movie very early on, and then working on a script that another script I'd like to shoot in Virginia. It's about two gangsters that get stuck in a bar waiting to drop some money off to the man in the pink socks, and they just get stuck there, and they both fall in love with the same waitress, and that kind of thing.
What could go wrong?
I can do a hell of a Jersey accent if you need it.
Yeah, so that's very early on. Not the greatest pitch, but yeah, it's trying to write a couple more projects. But looking for the next thing.
I don't know what you're thinking about with pitches, but I'm actually in on that. Like, as soon as you said pink socks, I'm like, I'm in.
And you shoot it in black and white, except for the pink socks, right? That's exactly where I went. So
it'd be like Schindler's List.
Except a
And the
smidge,
wheelbarrow with the pink
a
socks.
smidge happier, just a smidge happier. Her name was Joe. You shot that like wholly independent. Did you just do that? Did you have help from the Virginia Film Office or anything like that? You just straight out of your pocket?
Straight up. Yeah. Let's do this. I just wanted to, I had felt like I directed, school plays and stuff, or not school plays, but I helped direct in high school with our drama club, and I had done a lot of shorts, or not a lot of shorts. I'd done shorts. I just always wanted to direct, and very early on in LA when I was doing some work, I met actors, and they were like, "Hey, if you can write and direct, you should go ahead and do that, because everybody's going to have to do that at some point if you're acting." And that just kind of, and I would be on set being like, "Oh, I think we should do it this way," but you're a PA, you don't say anything. You get fired. But just that feeling of like, I can do this, and I don't want to wait around for someone to give me an opportunity. So the whole process was kind of just dive in, let's go, let's get it done. So
right. I love that of the independent filmmaker, that independent spirit. Duplass said the cavalry's not coming at South by a few years ago at this point. And he's absolutely right. So like people like you have an idea, have a vision. You go through the trouble of writing it down. You cast it. You take a road trip across the entire country with little kids, like who's going to help you do that? You just have to do that, And I think it's just so impressive.
I love that quote too, that you said that it was the cavalry's not coming. But after this last year, I would even go as far to say as the cavalry is the independent filmmaker, and movie theaters need to recognize that more, because they were the ones that stepped up last year and helped keep a lot of the ones that could open.
Yeah, I would really love to see, I don't know how the fiscal end of that would work, but I really think that there's an opportunity for at least independent theater chains to team up with independent filmmakers and get content, to get the theaters back, because the incentive is, I'm sure with the majors that they're going to look at their revenue and continue to try to bring theaters back. But I think if we want to see real cinema, even real old school kind of movies, character driven stories, or anything that isn't Marvel, then that really does need to be from the independent side of things.
But I think the independents, the huge surge in the early 90s changed cinema, and then over time it became blockbuster after blockbuster and bigger movies. But people like us, I want to include you guys because I want to. The Marvel movies are fine, but they're all spectacle, But I need a movie that makes me feel. I want a nice drama to make me cry. I want to be impacted by it. So, and to me, that's a different emotional contact. It's a different thing than riding a roller coaster. And I know that analogy gets thrown around a lot for, Marvel movies and Star Wars movies and stuff like that. But, I'll go on record now and say that Star Wars movies have a hell of a lot more heart than Marvel movies. And I think they're better films.
Attack of the Clones is a real masterpiece. Heartfelt filmmaking.
All right. So 6 of the 9. All right. 7 of the 10. However,
I've never even heard of these other Star Wars movies. I saw A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and The Return of the Jedi. Those are the ones I know.
Yes, those are the ones that I know as well. Rogue One is an excellent movie.
Okay, we can fight over that one.
It sounds like you're coming back on the show then. You don't Rogue One, really? No.
I am keeping my mouth shut.
Yeah, I don't want to take myself out of the running for when Kathleen Kennedy comes in there. Hey, you look like a nerdy white dude. You want to direct a Star Wars movie? But
hey, it happened with friends of ours. Justin and Aaron they did The Endless and Spring. and another movie, and they are booked right now. They just did Synchronicity or Synchronic.
Yeah.
And they're on board to do Moonshot now with Marvel.
That is cool.
It happens, man. It happens.
Yeah, I don't think to clarify, I don't think that those are, bad movies. The Marvel movies are bad, or it's more like that there's no space for other kinds of movies, and that those Disney isn't interested in making those kinds of movies anymore. And there's a financial reason, but it's kind of like if all the restaurants were suddenly McDonald's, it would be like, I love McDonald's. It's the best, but I would like to go to a mom and pop shop and get a pierogi sometime, that kind of feeling. Yeah.
I want a pierogi. Oh, that sounds so good right now.
Next time you're on the show in person, we're all just going to eat pierogies and talk about
just pierogi cinema hour.
Just smack.
We have to use Pittsburgh accents.
Next Friday, we're going to make Joe eat pierogies and talk about Star Wars, and he has to say he loves Rogue One.
Now it breaks my heart, but I'm going to have to go watch it this afternoon now and just see what you could not like about Rogue One.
Well,
So
actually,
I'm going to shoot you an email. And be like, this part's good. This part's good. This part's good.
I'm not invested in the characters.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And it is such a quick, it's one, well, I mean, even though, how many movies are made, her name is Joe, where you are invested in the characters within that time frame of the movie. So I guess they could have done that better. Instead of just saying, we know what they do, as in get the Death Star plans to Leia.
Spoiler alert.
That's it. No, I have a rule. If it's older than 2 years, I don't care. You should have seen
Everybody dies in the Red Wedding. What? I don't know.
That's the next episode. How dare you? Yeah.
The end of the beginning of New Hope, Leia says, "I'm on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. Why are you pulling us over?" And now it's like, well, you guys just came from this huge battle on the planet, and I murdered half of y'all. Where's this diplomatic mission going? Is a little. It doesn't fold into the original narrative. It's like,
if you've ruined Rogue One for me, I will never forgive you.
it's like, why is Darth Vader asking? He just saw you guys fly away from the planet where there's a huge battle where they stole the plans. Of course she has the plans. You're going to arrest her.
You know what? I'm going to make a judgment call now. Rogue One is stupid.
No, I quit. I give up. The show is over. The show is over.
I don't want to become the guy that comes on the show to be like, hey, that movie that you enjoy, it's terrible.
But see, I love that guy. I love that guy.
All right, let's talk about The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh no,
I really got to go. I really got to go.
I don't think anybody disagrees with The Dark Knight Rises. Now, if you go with The Dark Knight, that's going to be the tough.
Third act falls flat for me. What?
Well, this has been Pulling Focus.
No, in all seriousness, we have hit our hour mark, Joe. This has been a lot of fun. We appreciate you coming on, and thank you for letting us screen Her Name Was Joe ahead so that we could talk about it a little bit. I'm looking forward to the premiere and meeting you in person. That's going to be great, and seeing the rest of your family. Are the actors coming? Are Mary Kate and Selma? Your sister coming? Your sister's name is?
I think Mary Kate will be there. So my sister's name is Elisa.
Elisa. Okay.
Sorry, Elisa.
Yeah, that'd be great to meet them too. I hope there's lots of press and camera flashes and stuff, and I hope it's all exciting. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for being on, man. This is so much fun.
Oh, this is a blast. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Anytime you want, just shoot us an email. It'd be great. And can't wait to meet you next week. Have a great time.
Awesome. I'll see you guys.
And everybody go see Her Name Is Joe, and it's available April 6th. It's going to make a big difference and make a big impact, I should say. I'm sure, because it's such a great movie.
Thank you,
brother. Well, until next time, we will talk to you soon, Joe.
Talk to you soon.
See you, Joe.
That was awesome.
He's great.
He is. He was a lot of fun. He knows his movies. He hates Rogue One, which made you flustered, which was funny. I'm with you. I love Rogue One. I can't. It might be my second favorite in the Star Wars pantheon. Nothing beats Empire, Brian. Say it. Nothing beats Empire.
Empire's the best. Empire's the best. Absolutely. Without question. Without question. Man, I thought I was making a heartfelt comparison between Star Wars and Marvel, and he was like, I don't know about that. And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah,
I thought we were bonding.
You were with me. I was with you.
We're bonded already. We're brothers.
All right, fair enough. It was a good interview. I'm really looking forward to actually seeing it on the big screen and kind of being there for everything.
Yeah,
I'd love to see you do the Q&A. I'm gonna make Steve make that happen. No, he's gonna be here. Make him do it.
I'd be so nervous, man.
That's fair. I don't blame you. I just I've done too many. I've done too many this week. I'm done. Yeah.
Appreciate you doing the intro.
Absolutely, man. Well, this was fun.
It was fun.
And we're not going to cancel anybody because we're not that type of people.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that. I want to bring it full circle. No, until next time, everybody. This is Pulling Focus Podcast. I am Mick Manhattan. Of course, I am joined, as always, with
Brian Patrick from Skyline Indie Film Fest.
Hell yeah. And this production is brought to you by thescenesnobs.com and Skyline Indie Film Fest, which is still accepting submissions to their film festival. My brain doesn't work today. It's Friday.
Yeah, regular submissions through March 31st, and then it's we accept submissions through April 30, but the price does go up because it's getting late in the game at that point. So,
yeah.
But yeah, go to skylineindiefilmfest.org, click on submit, and we'd love to see your film.
Hell yeah, I'm super excited. And until next time, we will talk to you later.
Bye.
You've been listening to Pulling Focus with Brian Patrick and Mick Manhattan. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Skyline Indie Film FE and at The Scene Snob. Please rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
And that's our show, everybody. Thanks for listening. I am Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. We always appreciate you guys tuning in and commenting along and everything else. Go check out this show or any of our other shows on thescenesnobs.com. Thescenesnobs.com. We love you. You guys are awesome. And if you would like, follow and subscribe to our social media. That really helps us go a long way. And please spread the word. Tell your friends. Have them come in. We love feedback and everything else. So everybody, you have a great day. Again, thanks for listening. Thescenesnobs.com. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.